out. Everybody.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Lights Out. I'm your host, Josh.
And I'm your host, Austin.
And I'm the producer, Daniel.
And we're back this week with a wild case for you. This is coming out of Germany, actually. And the media has called this the influencer doppelganger murder. This is absolutely insane.
One of the weirdest cases.
Very weird.
Covered.
Feels like there's more to this that hasn't really come to light yet.
Yeah.
Detail-wise. But the essence is this wannabe influencer basically stalked social media to find her doppelganger and then decided it was going to be a good idea to kill this doppelganger in order to fake her own death and frame her ex-husband and start a new life.
That's the gist of it.
And as we'll see, doesn't work out so well. But there's just a lot of weird elements to this, including possibly black magic, which is very odd. And just forewarning, there's some names that are going to be a little difficult for us to pronounce perfectly.
Yes, yeah. And even the main culprit in this case, it's hard to find an exact pronunciation. So we're just going with the most popular way to pronounce this name because it's quite a unique name.
Sharaban.
Yeah.
Sharaban.
Or Sharaban.
Sharaban,
Yeah.
Sharaban.
Somewhere in there.
Sharaban K. Because we don't know her last name.
Yes, Germany laws, their privacy laws are very strict, especially with cases, especially with like murder cases. As far as the culprits or the victims are concerned, they often don't use last names. They just use the first letter of a surname, and then they'll just mostly use your first name. Even finding pictures of people is kind of hard. They keep it under wraps, for better or worse. I know we kind of talked about this, how it affects the justice system and the pros and cons of it all.
Maybe it's a good thing.
Yeah.
That it's not so... I mean, this case still made international news.
Right.
So it didn't necessarily like keep it quiet or keep it under wraps, but it does sort of protect some of the integrity of the case.
Yeah.
It makes it a little bit harder to go and find
especially
details on someone.
I think it's an important thing before the trial ends. Then more information seems to be getting released as like it's getting deeper in. But I think, maybe it's before the trial occurs. There's not all this information swirling around and people are kind of determined guilty by the media before they stand trial.
Which definitely plays a part into a lot of cases, especially here in America. You know, that's why gag orders and things like that are put out there sometimes. Right. But yeah, this one is very violent, very disturbing, and absolutely insane to wrap your head around. I still am like, why?
Why? Yeah.
Why do you do this? This is just so senseless and horrific, especially for the victim in this case. But doppelgangers, man. Do you have a doppelganger?
I was going to ask, have you ever seen it, or like, has anyone compared you to anyone?
There is one. It's not good though, because it's a convicted killer.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Wait, who?
So a couple years, this was probably like 5 or 6 years ago on Mile Higher, we covered a case and somebody was like, "Oh, Josh, you know who your doppelganger is?" It's in the Natalie Holloway case, a very, very famous case, but Joran Vandersloot. Somebody said I look like Joran Vandersloot, which I was like, no, I don't, but I kind of do, especially if I like shaved my head. It's kind of scary.
Wait, I kind of see it.
If you saw a picture of me shaved.
Yeah, it is a bit stretch. I don't know. You're more handsome than this guy.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You don't have to sweat that, but I guess I can kind of see it a little bit.
There's a picture of me from like 18 where I had a shaved head, like buzzed head like that. And I definitely look a lot closer.
More
like, what about
him.
this pic though?
Okay.
A little bit more.
Also, the facial hair is kind of now matching up with that a little bit.
Yep.
All right.
Loosely, but I appreciate it. More handsome.
Yeah,
for
come
sure.
on.
I'm way better looking, better in all aspects than this fucking monster. Yeah, and that's the only one people have given me is a fucking convicted killer.
Yeah.
What about you?
I've gotten 4 over the years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I got people compare me. It's kind of like an amalgamation of people. I often get Dax Shepard, Zach Braff, David Grohl, and the guy from Ratatouille. All smashed into one, kind of.
Dave Grohl. I
You
definitely see that
yeah.
a little bit. Yep. None of them are convicted of any serious crimes, I think.
Nope. Dave Grohl had a baby with his mistress, I think, recently. So that was some controversy.
Things happen. Danny, what about you? I know you've got to have one.
As far as I know, no. I did.
Oh, you're just too unique.
No. Weirdly enough, I did get stopped one day when I was at a kickboxing smoker, and a dude came up to me and stopped me, and he told me, "Hey, I need to get a picture of you. You look exactly like my friend back home." So we took a picture together, but he never showed me his friend back home. So I have a doppelganger out there.
You just don't know who it is.
I don't know who it is, and I assume they look kind of like me. It's probably just a bald-headed white guy.
One that every time I see his face, sometimes it loosely reminds me. It's not like a perfect doppelganger, but iDubbbz.
Really?
A little bit iDubbbz. Like iDubbbz with the facial hair, the tattoos, kind of the facial structure. Just a little.
Oh, like, all right. You look like if iDubbbz was in the UFC, though.
But there you go. I mean, I'm sure people out there will have maybe some better options for us.
And comment who you guys think we look like, I guess.
Yeah. Don't be nice.
And be as mean as possible.
Dude, somebody said I looked like Burt Reynolds one time.
That's a
good
like, compliment.
Maybe when I'm like 50 or 60. Like, what? Right now? Come on, man.
I think
I'd love to look like Burt Reynolds.
Yeah, it's like
you should just shave everything else, get a really nice mustache.
Just need to go gray.
Yeah.
All right, if you're still with us, let's go ahead and get into this case, starting with who the hell is Sharaban K? Well, she's a wannabe beauty influencer, and she was born in April of 1999. She's only reported as Sharaban K because of Germany's privacy laws, as we discussed before. It's customary to refer to victims and the accused by their first name and last initial. But Sharaban is a German who grew up in northern Iraq with her parents, sister, and brother, and not much is known about her childhood. But she did grow up in a religious household, and her family practiced Yazidism, a monotheistic religion practiced by Yazidis, an ethno-religious group. And in 2006, when Sharaban was only 7 years old, her family fled Iraq and immigrated to Germany. And here they lived in Ingolstadt, outside of Munich, and this region is where she would continue to live into the 2020s. In high school, Sharaban was outgoing, had a flair for the dramatic, and loved being the center of attention. She also had an early interest in beauty, makeup, and hair, and her dream was to become a beautician. And after spending so much time on social media, especially good old Instagram and YouTube, she saw her hobby's potential in the realm of video content. Because of course, she saw all these other influencers doing it and making a good living doing it. She's like, that's what I want to do. In her teenage years, like many, she also became defiant and argumentative with her parents. She'd often leave the house whenever she wanted, with her parents having no clue where she went for hours. When she was 16, she met another teenager named Sharaban K. Sharaban's family had also immigrated from Iraq to Germany when he was young. Sharaban and Sharaban quickly fell in love and spent all their free time together, but they kept their relationship a secret out of fear that their families would judge them or possibly not allow their relationship to continue. So Sharaban continued sneaking out at night. About a year had passed, and an uncle of Sharaban's discovered the relationship when he saw the couple kissing on the local subway. He confronted Sharaban, telling him to remove his hands from his niece, and he took Sharaban's phone and discovered photos showing that the couple had been together for quite some time. The uncle was outraged and told Sharaban she was far too young to be dating. Oddly, instead of the uncle telling the rest of the family, he allegedly began blackmailing Sharaban. He threatened to tell her parents, although the details of this alleged blackmail are unclear, which is very odd.
Yeah.
That this is the route he went.
I think there is a lot of hidden interpersonal, like familial issues going on in this case that I don't know we'll ever really get access to. But once you kind of figure out a little bit more about the family, it seems like there's just some really weird stuff, not only with Sharaban, but also with Rowan as well.
Yeah, it just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to us.
Yeah.
This initially caused a lot of stress and anguish inside of their relationship. And eventually they're like, screw it, let's just go public and forget about this whole blackmail thing. At first, both families were offended by the secret romance, and they demanded that they end their relationship. But the couple stayed together despite pressure from their families. 2 years later, 18-year-old Sharaban ended up marrying Rowan, and they moved in together and had a short honeymoon phase, and their relationship quickly turned sour. So they got together very, very young, and it started off kind of tumultuous with the families not approving of it, which don't really know why that was the case.
Yeah. The only thing I can think of is maybe, this is complete speculation, I have no basis for this, but I know in some cultures, I don't know about Yazidism, but arranged marriages or certain families feel like they have control over like who their offspring dates and marries. So there might be just a control factor here. That's my best guess.
That's what I would guess too. I mean, unless the families didn't like each other and they had issues or something.
Right.
Who knows though? This episode of the podcast is brought to you by one of our absolute favorite sponsors, Wild Grain. Sorry, that was so enthusiastic. I'll give Austin a pass today, though. He's feeling a little bit under the weather.
Yeah,
so
I'm getting over a cold. Sorry, everybody.
Well, maybe you just need some fresh baked bread or a croissant.
I think they do say medically it heals you right up. At least, maybe more spiritually, it heals you.
Yeah. Or better yet, those chocolate chip cookies. Because I am just absolutely obsessed with them. I can't get enough of them. And really, you need to keep me away from them because I'm going to become a wild grain chocolate chip cookie because they're just that good.
Those suckers are huge too.
Massive. Yeah. Like you almost need a whole pan for one.
It's so good.
But Wild Grain is the first bake from frozen subscription box for artisanal breads, pastries, and pastas. They also have those hand-cut pasta fresh that they make. It comes frozen, but you just cook it like you normally would cook pasta. And voila, you have homemade restaurant quality pasta. Wild Grain is bringing you quality and freshness with every single item. Their sourdough bread is to die for. Their croissants are so absolutely delicious. And they come out with seasonal items as well that are phenomenal. Like last fall, they had apple cider donuts. And it's just amazing. I mean, they cook all this stuff in wherever they cook this. I mean, a kitchen somewhere. And it's just magical. I don't know what they're doing over there. It's a family-run business, but they have this secret sauce. And then it shows up at your door. It's frozen. You just throw it in the freezer until you're ready. And then it's super easy. I mean, it's 10, 20 minutes max, and you've got fresh baked items like they had just come out of your homemade scratch kitchen.
Yeah. And with everything about bread, they give you this butter.
Oh, dude.
The
Get me started on the butter.
So
the double churned.
Oh.
Like European butter.
Yeah. It's like French butter. It's so good.
It's all to die for.
Yeah.
So just stop what you're doing. If you're ready to bring all your favorite carbs right to your doorstep, be sure to check out Wild Grain so you can begin building your own box of artisanal breads, pastas, and pastries. And for a limited time, Wild Grain is offering our listeners $30 off their first box plus free croissants in every box when you go to wildgrain.com/lightsout to start your subscription.
That's right. You heard him. Free croissants in every box and $30 off your first box when you go to wildgrain.com/lightsout. That's wildgrain.com/lightsout, or you can use promo code lightsout at checkout. So during their marriage, Rowan ended up opening his own hair salon, and Sharaban found work as a beautician working freelance at Rowan's salon. She was capable of things like facials, cosmetic injections, and laser treatments, and only about a year into their marriage, what were once these small arguments now escalated to straight-up physical abuse, with Sharaban assaulting her husband. The people around them first became aware of the abuse when one day, Sharaban stormed into the bakery next door to the hair salon, took some of the pastries, and then began throwing them at her husband in front of everyone. Sharaban was also incredibly jealous as a spouse. She didn't trust Rowan and was always paranoid about extramarital affairs, although reportedly there were none on his end. Then came the 2020 lockdown, which we're all very familiar with, and in such close quarters, the couple's problems got even worse. Sharaban, who is now 21 years old, had recently gotten her driver's license, and she bought herself a black Mercedes. Rowan said that it was around this time that their relationship quickly fell apart. Because much like how she used to do when she lived with her parents, Sharaban would disappear for hours at night. Now she had access to this new car, she could leave whenever she wanted to. So she'd take the car out, and sometimes late into the night and early morning hours, not telling Rowan where she was going. And during her nights out, she would repeatedly cheat on her husband with multiple men. She reportedly texted one of the men tens of thousands of times in a matter of weeks. When Sharaban was 22, she became pregnant as a result of her affair, and this is when Rowan became brutally aware of Sharaban's activity outside of the house. And even though Sharaban was in the wrong, her violence towards her husband escalated, and many of their arguments involved Rowan not wanting Sharaban to proceed with the pregnancy. In following altercations, she ended up striking him over the head with a heavy object. She smashed his face into a mirror, and once she tried to run him over with her Mercedes. Soon, Rowan's brother got involved, and he began threatening Sharaban to get an abortion, and she eventually gave in to these threatening demands and terminated her pregnancy. Surprisingly, through everything, the couple still stayed together, still stayed married, and unfortunately, the violence continued. Reportedly, at one point, Sharaban took a taser or a stun gun of some sort to Rowan's brother's home and electrocuted him in the neck. The man collapsed while Sharaban looked really proud of herself.
Oh, fuck, dude.
Yeah, right?
She is out of her mind, man.
This reads like almost like just an insane reality TV show, like the most toxic reality TV show you can imagine. Like
way more violent
drama, and like really violent too. On top of that,
like something's wrong with Sharaban.
Yes,
clearly.
Yeah, no, normal people don't do this. Yeah,
is there mental issues going here? Is there substance issues or all the above?
Yeah,
is this just how she is? Has she been this way her whole life?
It might be a mix of all those things. You know, I don't know
just
what
insane behavior.
Yeah,
she's a married woman. She's going out, sleeping with a bunch of different men.
Right,
and then she's getting violent with her ex, or it's not even her ex at this point. It's, her husband's brother.
Yeah. And I can imagine, like, obviously with the terminated pregnancy, everything that probably escalates even more so. So it's just a complete shitstorm. But finally, luckily, Rowan applied for civil protection orders against Sharaban and also told her that he wanted a divorce. Sharaban then moved back in with her parents in the meantime, but her parents mentioned how they did not approve of a divorce.
Mm.
So this is odd because, divorce in Yazidi culture, like many religious cultures, it's permitted but not preferred. So like in growing up Catholic, right? You can get your marriage annulled and everything, but at first it's like, well, have you tried counseling? Have you gone to the priest? Have you done X, Y, and Z to really not go through with this? So it's kind of similar here. I can relate just a little bit to the culture because her parents thought a divorce would completely embarrass the family. And the same went for Rowan's parents. It was odd, since the parents hadn't even approved of Sharaban and Rowan's secret relationship to begin with. But apparently they believed that divorce was worse than an unapproved secret relationship. So it's just a complete mess. And urged by the families, Sharaban and Rowan entered into a mediation process to try and resolve the problems in their marriage. Both Sharaban and Rowan's parents attended the mediation sessions, but everyone ended up blaming each other. Reportedly, one family member even threatened another family member's life if the couple were to get a divorce. I believe it was one father accusing the other father or threatening the other father. So it sounds like just a lot of crazy high drama stressful theatrics that's going on here. Nothing was resolved during these mediation sessions. And by the end, it was clear to everyone that divorce was the only way forward.
Which, that's exactly what happened. They finally get the divorce, and afterwards, Sharaban's behavior became even more problematic. Reportedly, her parents did not allow her to live with them because they were unhappy that this even happened. Although it's still very unclear exactly why, as many details of this case are. But she reportedly lived with them again after some time had passed. Maybe, they kind of felt a certain type of way at the beginning, kind of blew over. She kind of won points back with them. Who knows? But some suspected that the embarrassment from the divorce made her parents ashamed to the point that they didn't want her living with them. But again, the true reason is unknown. So for a time, Sharaban lived out of her Mercedes and rented hotel rooms when she could. Sharaban then began spending a lot of time with a questionable social circle. Reportedly, she also began several sexual relationships with various men. Her drug use also escalated, and she began stealing food and money from local stores. Basically becoming a criminal.
Yeah.
One time she crashed her Mercedes into a fence during a getaway, and she also began creating and selling fake COVID-19 test certificates. She also allegedly had indecent images of children on her phone at one point. Well, I don't even know what that means exactly, I mean, what people is she running with?
Must be a really dark crowd
if
here.
she's getting a hold of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
By age 23, she's only 23 at this point, she fell even deeper into this criminal social circle, and she fabricated a story telling her new acquaintances that she was being threatened by her ex-husband's family members and that her ex-husband was apparently stalking her. But there is no evidence to support that this was true whatsoever. But she began convincing others that she desperately needed a way to defend herself. So she began seducing men and asking them if they'd be willing to kill in order to defend her.
Oh boy.
Quite the manipulator as well.
Yeah.
And this was when she developed a relationship with a man named Sharaban K. Shakir was originally from Kosovo and only a year older than Sharaban. He was described as friendly and relaxed, except when he would abuse cocaine. After getting to know Sharaban, he quickly joined in the search for hiring a hitman for Sharaban, and he would soon become a crucial accomplice in Sharaban's crimes. Her first target was her former brother-in-law, the one who reportedly threatened her into terminating her pregnancy. Most of the men she requested to kill the man declined immediately, but one man agreed, and he said he could, quote, blow him out like a candle. The man said he would do it for 10,000 euros, but he needed half up front. Sharaban and Shakir agreed to the price as long as he could show them pictures of the murder as proof. She then told the hitman, quote, "This day will be more beautiful than any other on earth." Says a lot about her.
Yeah.
And as time passed, no proof ever came, and it soon became obvious that Sharaban had been conned out of 5,000 euros, and the hitman never carried out the murder. The man apparently never even had any intention of carrying out the murder. He just wanted to get some easy money. But despite this whole con scandal, Sharaban was not ready to give up just yet. This is probably all like over Instagram.
Yeah, there's like a digital footprint a mile long.
Yeah, this is probably all happening on Instagram, I feel like.
Yeah, these...
How much? 10,000? Sure.
Yeah. Sharaban just seems like she fell from the top of the dumb tree and hit every branch on the way down. Not the smartest in the bunch here. So she wasn't going to give up here. She turned to Shakir and asked if he would be willing to murder for her. He agreed, and he continued to buy into her story that she was being threatened and stalked by her ex-husband and his family. She told Shakir that she genuinely feared her ex-husband would eventually kill her. She then decided that the only way to protect herself, instead of killing her husband, she changed her plans, and she thought, wait a minute, I should fake my own death. Not only that, but she planned to frame her ex-husband for the murder so he would be sent to prison. And then she planned to run away with Shakir and they would live happily ever after. In 2022, she began her plan by creating multiple fake social media profiles, mostly on Instagram. And then she tried to find others who looked exactly like her. So she went through countless profiles, comparing features of other users down to things like their age, facial structure, body type, skin tone, height, and weight. She was very specific. They had to be around 23 years old, about 5'6", have brown eyes and no tattoos. And not only that, but she also tried to find users who even had similar personalities to her own. Many of the users that she found were also aspiring beauty influencers. So she was really just trying to find herself out there somewhere. Her search lasted weeks, but by the end, she had drawn up a list of potential candidates. She then used her multiple accounts to follow these potential victims, and she often tried to bait the potential victims with scams. She used one account with the username Bahar89K to pretend that she was in the beauty industry. Through various DMs, she tried to get her potential victims to come out to a specific location. She would set up the fake opportunities to look like dream jobs in the beauty or entertainment industries. So there's this one, "Hey, good evening. We are looking for girls to test our new diode lasers. Would you like to collaborate? We offer permanent hair removal with the world's fastest and most effective diode laser. 100% pain-free. If you are interested in permanent hair removal, you can contact me at any time. We work with state-of-the-art medical diode laser. Best wishes, heart emoji."
This looks like every other scammy
Doesn't it?
email
That's what I thought
get
too.
on Instagram from like people. It's constant. Like,
Yeah.
I'm blah, 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 and I'm associated with blah, blah, blah products.
Man.
Would you like to try this? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Sometimes I get the watches are a big thing. Do you ever see those? I sometimes get those DMs. And I'm like, no, I'm good. So a common scam she set up was for the potential victims to get beauty treatments in exchange for a social media post. That isn't too odd. I know that's just
No, there's a lot of exchanges that happen like that.
Yeah, even
give you
legitimate
free service
ones.
in exchange for a post.
Yeah, even legitimate ones. And another scam offered potential victims the opportunity to participate in a music video where they, quote, wouldn't have to do much and would be, quote, well paid. She tried to bait as many beauty influencers as she could, and she preyed on influencers who desperately dreamed of becoming more successful in their field. Classic manipulator, right? So this one, she sent, "Hey, love, would you like to take part in a music video? You have a very good charisma. You will be paid well." Smiley face. "You don't have to do much. I would be happy if you get in touch. Best wishes, Bahar." So she would send messages like these to everyone on her list. And within a month, Sharaban ultimately contacted 20 women who fit her exact criteria, and many responded to her bait messages. And some got into fairly long discussions with her, but many of the offers fell through when Sharaban informed them that they would have to travel out to Munich for the opportunity. And the women she had found that fit her criteria were often not close to Munich at all, so they weren't willing to travel that far.
Yeah, because who's like, you want me to come there, you hit me up, but then you want me to travel that far?
Right, yeah.
You're going to pay for my travel?
Right. And I mean, not only do you have to find someone who looks exactly like you, even maybe acts exactly like you, but then you have, in a 20-mile radius? I think to be tough.
Yeah, it'd be really tough.
Like,
I wonder how far away some of these people were.
Right. And like, do you think given like, let's say you had a month or 2 months to just scour social media, this is all you had to do. Do you think you could find someone who looked exactly like you, maybe even acted like you in the Denver area?
No.
Yeah, I don't
Definitely
think I
not.
could. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like,
It'd be
seems
very
like
hard.
an impossible task.
So she must have been looking all over Europe.
Yeah, that's what
my
I would
guess.
assume.
I mean, had to have been. And maybe even into the Middle East even.
Right.
I mean, who knows? Eventually, Sharaban was able to lure in one of the women on her list. She was a 23-year-old aspiring beauty influencer named Khadidja O. And she was described as a cheerful, loving young woman who's extremely loyal to her friends. Absolutely stunning individual.
Yeah.
She reportedly had a difficult upbringing in Algeria, and her parents separated when she was young. After this, she immigrated to Germany with her father, but her mother stayed in Oran, Algeria, and she never saw her mother again. But reportedly, She had maintained a long-distance relationship with her mother and siblings over the years. When she was 14 years old, she was removed from her father's care, and the circumstances for why this happened are unclear, but then she was placed into a children's home where she made friends and settled into the small community. It was also around this time that she met her first boyfriend, who later became physically abusive towards her. By the time Sharaban reached out to her, Khadidja was 23 and lived just outside of Heilbronn, about a 3-hour drive northwest of Munich. Here, she worked as a waitress with dreams of becoming a beauty influencer. She had lots of social media accounts. She posted lots of content, including beauty and makeup tutorials. And it looks like she used TikTok and Instagram mostly. But Khadidja fit the description Sharaban had been looking for. She had brown eyes, long wavy hair, and about the same figure, skin tone, and height. And on August 9, 2022, Sharaban tried to bait Khadidja with a music video opportunity under the profile name Loon Official. She told her the song would be performed by German pop hip-hop artist Loon. One message said, quote, "You don't have to do much. Would be great to hear from you. Would take place in Offenburg." Sharaban added, "Must be kept a secret, though, until the song is released."
I like how none of those are really complete sentences, too. Like, you can kind of smell the scam just from her grammar.
Yeah, any professional, like, booking agent is going to be talking like this, probably. Khadidja was a little suspicious of this DM, so she decided to send the musical artist Loon a voice DM on Instagram saying how she had been contacted by another profile with an offer to star in one of her music videos. She then asked Loon to confirm if this was real. Loon surprisingly responded telling Khadidja, quote, "It's fake, sis, don't reply." So Khadidja bailed on the fake opportunity, but this wasn't the end. Sharaban then reached out to Khadidja again on August 11th using another fake account. This time she offered to give her free laser hair removal treatment that said she normally charged 2,600 euros for, as long as Khadidja would post about it on social media. And at first, Khadidja was hesitant, according to her family, but she eventually agreed to go through with it. Sharaban then sent Khadidja the address to her ex-husband's salon. So if Khadidja looked up the address online, she would see that there is a legitimate salon there. But the problem was, Khadidja lived nearly 3 hours away, and many of the other potential victims had declined her offers because they would have to travel so far. Sharaban didn't want this one to fall through, so she offered to go and pick up Khadidja and drive her to the salon herself. And Khadidja agreed, so both women set up a time and day to meet up. Which this is all very, very bizarre, but if you're just kind of looking at this on social media, you're getting the address, it matches up to a salon.
Yeah.
She seems really nice. She's going to come pick you up.
And I think Sharaban, she knows how to play into people's wants, right? She's a manipulator. So she can see like, oh, this is someone who wants to grow their beauty influencer following. So, yeah, she can kind of pinpoint exactly what somebody wants and really manipulate that. And she knows, like, of course, and then she kind of puts the icing on the cake, being like, we'll drive you out as well. You can't say no, right?
Yeah.
This is such a good opportunity. It's a free, what did she say, 2,600 or 1,600?
Service, yeah.
So it's like
permanent hair removal, yeah.
Yeah. And that's why typically, scams, it's like, if it sounds too good to be true, it is. But it's hard. Sometimes you get the stars in your eyes and it's hard to see. I don't know. I've been suckered before, I haven't really necessarily participated in a scam, but I've definitely, sometimes scams are set up in a way where it's hard to deny them. I don't know.
And it's also like how it's presented too. I think because this is happening through Instagram and there's this fake account that she's created that seems convincing, I think how they're presented is important too. Versus if you just get a random email, you know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas like an Instagram message is a little bit more personal.
You're right. Yeah. That definitely.
And I think some people also have like, not that you can easily make a fake Instagram account. So maybe people don't think it's harder to scam on Instagram.
Right. Yeah.
That's probably not true at all. But
I think it being somewhat local plays into why you wouldn't think it's like, oh, it's a local business. Like I would maybe trust it a little bit more.
Well, she's probably like, what do I have to lose here?
Yeah.
I'm not giving her anything. She's coming to pick me up. So what's the worst? That it's like a shitty service and I don't like it that much and I just won't post.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's not like there's a contracted agreement happening here. So maybe it was just kind of like,
you get a free laser.
I'll get a free laser thing. If it's not great, then whatever, you know?
Yeah.
I don't really lose that much. Well, that's what she thought.
But yeah, it's, it ended up, they agreed on the time and day. And so on August 15th, 2022, Sharaban texted Shakir saying, quote, "Tomorrow we're going to kick off. We have a lot to do. I'm looking forward to it." She sent him another message later in the day offering him 80,000 euros to murder Khadidja, and he agreed. I always love criminals like this, sarcastically, because they're so dumb. They leave just a huge paper trail behind. Like what we can't, the investigators can get these messages, man. You're planning to murder someone over text. We're gonna see this.
Yeah.
It blows my mind how stupid some of these people are. So on August 16th, 2022, Sharaban, who was living with her parents again at the time, told them she was going out to meet her ex-husband, Rowan, to just sort some things out. And this was all according to plan since she was trying to frame Rowan, if you remember, and she then told her parents she would be back later that evening, knowing that if she wasn't back by then, her parents would come looking for her. So this was all by design. And she then went to pick up Shakir, and they drove over 100 miles to pick up Khadidja. They got to her home around 7 p.m. that evening, which is really late to be picking her up. And Sharaban knocked on the door, introduced herself as the salon owner. Khadidja then got in the backseat of the Mercedes, expecting them to just go and return to the salon where she would get her free beauty treatment. During the drive between Heilbronn and Ingolstadt, Sharaban pulled off the main road and headed into the nearby forest. And fearing that Khadidja would become concerned, naturally, Sharaban pretended that she had just accidentally made a wrong turn and they got lost. She then pulled the car over and put it in park before asking Khadidja to get out of the car to read a nearby road sign. The following is what is believed to have happened, but only Sharaban and Shakir know the truth. So when Khadidja got out of the car, Shakir also hopped out of the vehicle and charged at Khadidja from behind. He then struck her in the back of the head with a set of brass knuckles. After she collapsed to the ground, Shakir took a knife and began stabbing Khadidja multiple times. Throughout the attack, he ended up inflicting 56 stab wounds to her chest, neck, back, and face, ultimately killing her in the attack. Since the plan was to fake Sharaban's death, he mutilated Khadidja's face so that she was unrecognizable. Sharaban and Shakir then picked up her remains, placed the body into the back seat of the Mercedes, and they drove the vehicle toward her ex-husband's home in Ingolstadt, locked it, and left the area with the body still in the back seat. Sharaban abandoned the vehicle in a quiet residential area near Rowan's house, and this is where she figured her parents would come across it when they came looking for her, which is exactly what happened. So if you remember, they know that she had told them she was going to Rowan's. So naturally, she's not home after so long. We're going to go look for her.
By 10 p.m. that night, Sharaban's parents were extremely concerned, thinking something might have happened between Sharaban and her ex-husband. So they texted her and messaged her on social media, but there was no response. By 11 p.m., her parents drove to Rowan's home, thinking that's where Sharaban was. But on the way, they spotted Sharaban's black Mercedes parked on the side of the road. And they couldn't see inside because the windows were too tinted. So they parked their vehicle, got out, and approached the Mercedes. And when they put their face up to the tinted glass of the backseat windows, they spotted a lifeless body covered in blood, and it looked exactly like their daughter from what they could see. So they tried frantically to open the car doors, but they were locked. And desperate to get inside, Sharaban's father picked up a nearby flower pot and tried to bash the car's window open, but couldn't. So they called the police. When police arrived, they were able to get the vehicle open, and the victim in the backseat had severe trauma to the back of the head from a blunt object and some 56 stab wounds to the chest, neck, back, and many to the face, making the victim unrecognizable. An emergency medical professional declared the young woman had been dead for some time, and they could not confirm the identity of the victim. But by now, Sharaban's parents were convinced the body belonged to their daughter. They immediately told police that they had last seen her earlier in the day and that she had headed out to meet her ex-husband, Rawan. Naturally, he became the investigators' first person of interest. And considering the couple's abusive and threatening past, the initial investigation seemed to point directly at Rawan. When they went to find him, it appeared he had fled. Some suspect he had heard about the murder through friends or family, and fearing that the police would consider him the prime suspect, he actually went on the run.
You know what I think about this one? This is also speculation, so just forewarning. I think possibly he wasn't just afraid of police. I think he may have been afraid of her family. Like once he found out about this, and it's like they're directly going to look at me, and knowing the violence that, you know, he was subjected to within his own marriage and the threats that had come between families during the mediation process, I could imagine he'd just be like,
yeah, he probably feared for his life.
Out of here.
Yeah. And by the next day, the police still couldn't find Rawan. And articles about Sharaban's death had already made it to the local news, including one that says, parents find daughter 23 dead on Mercedes back seat. But even though the news reported her dead, the deceased body still had not officially been confirmed to actually be Sharaban's. And on top of this, several locals reported to police that they had seen Sharaban after her alleged death. After fingerprint tests and an autopsy were performed on the day after the murder, police confirmed without a doubt that the body did not belong to Sharaban. This now made Sharaban a person of interest in the investigation. Investigators also needed to figure out, who is this person? What is the true identity of our victim here? So they made a public appeal on the news, and they asked if anyone knew of any missing people who looked similar to Sharaban. One report came to police that identified a missing woman who lived about 100 miles away. The reported missing person was none other than Khadidja O. After forensic testing, they were finally able to confirm the identity of the victim.
Which, you know, it begs the question, why did they think they could get away with this?
Yeah, it seems so, like, just because you disfigure a body doesn't
You've
mean
never heard of DNA?
Right. And there's so many other ways. Dental records, I mean,
Right,
there's fingerprints, there's all these other identifying components. But yeah,
Right.
at the very minimum, DNA is going to be there.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me. There's just no forethought in this at all.
Sounds like some dumb movie plot.
It really does.
Like Sharaban watched some dumbass movie that was like, oh yeah, murder your doppelganger and then just plant her in your car.
That's
convince
not a bad
everybody.
theory. She may have like consumed some stupid shit like that and thought she could do it. Yeah.
I mean, she's made a lot of stupid mistakes in the past
Yeah.
before. Like,
Yeah.
She's not smart at all.
No. And it also shocks me that she was able to convince someone else of this idea on top of that. So we have like the two dumbest criminals here.
Dumb.
Dumb.
So dumb.
Yeah.
As more information about the case was revealed to the public, many couldn't understand the reasoning behind the murder. A spokesman from the local police force said, "It was an extraordinary case that demanded all the investigators' skills. We don't have a case like this every day, especially with such a spectacular twist. On the day we found the body, we didn't expect it to turn out like this." So even the police is shocked at just, A, how brutal this is,
Yeah.
but also in the way that it's all sort of unfolding. And while this case was making international news, many wondered why Sharaban even decided to carry out the murder in the way that she did. Her motive, according to Veronica Grieser of the Ingolstadt State Prosecutor's Office, said that Sharaban wanted to go into hiding because of, quote, internal disputes with her family that stemmed from her failed marriage. So, yeah, I'd really love to know more about these internal disputes between the family. That must have been really, really bad.
Yeah.
But when you look at the circumstances surrounding the case, it's all just extremely bizarre. And as we keep saying, just fucking stupid.
Yeah.
It's like, really? You thought this plan would work? She really thinks she's going to be able to fake her own death and start a new life. I mean, how often does that happen?
This is almost too stupid that it makes me think that she just wanted to kill somebody. And then she made this like elaborate thing surrounding it. But it almost seemed like this is so dumb that I wonder if she was, I don't know, abusing so many drugs or just kind of predisposed to, maybe she's a sadist or something, or just possibly a psychopath.
Yeah.
And then she just makes up this really weird, elaborate plan around it just for the catharsis of killing someone. Because this is just like too stupid for me. Unless it's one or the other, but I have no idea. It's just ridiculous.
Allegedly, according to one source, during the initial investigation, investigators had suggested that Khadidja was sacrificed as part of a black magic ritual. Because inside the Mercedes, they had discovered notes originally thought to be written in Arabic, along with photos of Sharaban's ex-husband, Rawand. These were thought to be a result of a black magic ritual, and some suggested they were some form of love spells, possibly meant to repair her marriage, and somehow win Rawand back. So all very bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
And according to one source, Rawand said this practice was sometimes used in Iraq to bring misfortune upon others. Sharaban was potentially trying to curse him, and this curse allegedly needed a significant sacrifice. And these theories will come up a bit later, but
throws a whole nother element in this
Wait
case.
a minute.
Yeah.
This was just all ritual, and it kind of plays in what you were just saying. Maybe this is just all
elaborate.
Mhm.
Everything's a smoke screen,
She wants us to think
right.
one thing, but really the true reason is far more sinister. And
Yeah.
it's just pure evil.
Yeah. And knowing that she's what appears to be a vast manipulator, I wonder if at some point along the way she's like, I wonder if I could convince a man to kill for me. And then she just went with that and then made up all this crazy shit around it. I don't know. This confounds me. I don't really understand it.
There's just such little thought put into the cover up of the crime.
Yeah.
It's non-existent, really.
Yeah. And it gets even worse because after the murder, Sharaban and Shakir never went into hiding. It gets even stupider. They stayed in the city of Ingolstadt, which is where they were from. And several witnesses saw them going into local shops. They didn't even hunker down for a little bit. They're just hanging out. And it appeared Sharaban had tried to just, go on with her life right after the murder. And since the couple was out and about in public, police easily tracked them down only the day after the murder. Sharaban and Shakir had entered a local pizzeria and asked to use an employee's phone. Not only just going into the local pizza shop, then making yourself really obviously known by being like, hey, can I use your phone? Also, here's my face if you need to see it. And what's better is there was a CCTV, security footage inside this place that also caught them on camera. And she was seen wearing Khadidja's clothing and carrying her designer handbag, which is disgusting, which makes me think there's maybe a little bit more going on here. Is this potential trophy activity here?
Right.
The pizza shop owner recognized Sharaban from the local news. So they secretly called the police while Sharaban and Shakir were waiting inside the pizzeria, and police arrived soon after and immediately detained them both and held them in custody. Both were later officially arrested and charged with murder after a 6-month investigation, because in Germany, it's a bit different than in the US. You can detain someone and hold them before even charging them. In the US, I think it's a 24-hour law that if you don't charge them with a crime, you have to let them
release
go.
them, yeah.
Not the way with murder investigations in Germany. So they weren't technically arrested and charged until 6 months later after the investigation. But they were detained. And if they were convicted, they both faced life sentences. Meanwhile, Khadidja's younger sister, Alam, said that she and her family found out about Khadidja's death 10 days after the murder through social media. And this absolutely devastated her family. Ingolstadt State Prosecutor's Office disputed this, saying files showed that the family in Algeria was informed of the murder. So there's some kind of conflicting information or just general miscommunication, and we'll get into the explanations for why. But Sharifa, who was Khadidja's mother, hadn't seen her daughter for more than a decade at this point, and although she did stay in touch and kept pictures of her daughter in her home, she later told journalists, "On the day of her death, Khadidja's framed picture fell off the wall. As a mother's intuition, I sensed that she was in crisis." And apparently that entire day, she sensed that her firstborn was in trouble. Sharifa was also disabled after a brain hemorrhage several years earlier, but she still traveled to Germany after finding out about her daughter's murder, and she found out very little information while there before eventually returning to her home in Algeria. Khadidja's sister later said, "I still can't believe that my sister has passed away. I still don't understand the reason." A language barrier, apparently an inaccurate email address, and complex family dynamics may have contributed to German authorities' miscommunication with the murder victims' relatives overseas. That's at least like the stated, the official statement of the prosecutor's office. And Veronica Grieser of the Ingolstadt State Prosecutor's Office said, "We very much regret that the victim's mother feels inadequately informed by the authorities. Of course, the victim's relatives have a right to information about the status of the proceedings and, of course, about the dates of the main hearing."
While incarcerated, both Sharaban and Shakir continued their violent streak. Sharaban constantly fought with other inmates. She was even charged with causing acts of bodily harm. One cellmate of hers said, quote, "She loves crime, she told me." There you go.
Yeah, she's nuts.
She's a violent psychopath, is really what's going on here. Shakir was also caught planning an assassination. He had tried to pay another inmate to murder 13 witnesses who had planned to testify in his trial. Shakir had given him a list of people and promised a reward. By the time of the trial, reportedly over 190 witnesses were lined up to testify.
He's a total idiot.
Yeah, okay, dude. Yeah, if I just get rid of these 13, I'm going home.
Right.
The trial proceedings were delayed for months after defense attorneys requested a suspension. They claimed there was no possibility of a fair trial because the prosecution had only recently submitted additional documents, which the defense needed additional time to examine. The classic delay tactic here.
Mm-hmm.
But Sharaban and Shakir finally went on trial nearly 18 months after the murder in January 2024. By the beginning of the trial, the case made international news, and German publications coined this case the Doppelgänger murder. Sharaban's ex-husband Rowan, who had eventually come out of hiding, testified in the trial. He explained why he initially went into hiding, saying that he feared Sharaban's parents would track him down and harm him because they would have assumed he was the murderer.
Yeah, I believe this.
So, yeah. While he testified in court, he described Sharaban's violent and abusive past. Another witness who testified was the man whom Sharaban had once hired as a hitman for 5,000 euros to kill her ex's brother. This hitman was later charged with fraud and sentenced to 1 year of probation. After examination of further evidence, including interviews with witnesses and chat logs, because of course there's chat logs everywhere, Sharaban was also charged and convicted of attempted incitement to murder. Luckily, the fraudulent hitman never carried out that murder. But during the murder trial, Sharaban testified on the stand using a quiet, timid voice to try to not seem so fucking crazy. Her defensive strategy was to blame everything on Shakir, of course, saying that she had nothing to do with it. Both defendants would turn on each other during the trial. So of course they did. No loyalty to each other, oh, no, it was all his idea.
Yeah.
She even claimed that Shakir had threatened her with a knife in the Mercedes on the day of the murder. The prosecution then produced countless messages that contradicted her claims of not being involved.
Yeah. God.
Which, thank God she was so stupid.
Yeah.
That this was so easy for them to
wrap it up. Yeah.
Call out her bullshit and her lies.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the murder weapon was never recovered, but the burden of proof was overwhelming by the end of the trial. Countless incriminating messages were shown in court, as you can probably imagine. And reportedly, Shakir showed no emotion in court. He seemed uninvolved with his arms crossed, leaning back in his chair. His defense claimed that Sharaban believed in black magic, and she had used Khadidja as a human sacrifice. They also proposed that Sharaban had reached out to occultists before the murder to try and use magic to win back her husband. One witness confirmed that Sharaban was still in love with Rowan, saying, quote, "She loves him. She's crazy about him." I tend to believe this.
I mean, it was introduced as some evidence in court, and it gets even crazier. Because at first you think it's like, oh, black magic murder. Okay, well, how much is there to this? But then
you hear
start
what
digging
she was
in.
actually doing.
Yeah.
And I think she really thought this was going to work and this was going to achieve whatever she was trying to achieve, whether that was just getting Rowan back.
Yeah.
Which there's a million other ways she could have done that. But
Right. Yeah. Or not.
Or not.
Just moved on with your life. Yeah.
The court consulted esoteric experts at several universities, and the experts agreed that the script used in the documents that were obtained in the car did not use Arabic, which was previously thought. An expert for the Iranian culture assumed that the letters were written in a pseudo-Arab script, and this might have indicated that the script was written by an occultist but could not be confirmed.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, they can't even fully translate what this is.
No.
But the trial ended up lasting 11 months and more than 50 days of hearings. But in the end, both Shakir and Sharaban were found guilty and, of course, sentenced to life in prison. In Germany, convicts can apply for parole after 15 years, but of course, due to the severity of their crimes, it makes it unlikely that either of them will get out. After handing out the sentence on December 19th, 2024, the presiding judge in the city of Ingolstadt described the murder as a disturbing act. Thomas Schlappa, a press officer for Ingolstadt's regional court, said that Sharaban's actions were deemed so severe that probation is not an option. Which good.
Yeah.
There is
no, I don't.
She's a lost cause at this point. At the trial, Khadidja's father was a co-plaintiff and represented by a lawyer in court, but the rest of Khadidja's family in Algeria had no legal representation and received little information throughout the trial. Again, German authorities explained this as a misunderstanding. The rest of her family only found out about the verdict 3 weeks later, and they felt consistently left in the dark throughout the trial. Much of the information they received was from Khadidja's friends through social media. Khadidja was always known for her fierce loyalty to her friends, and in return, they helped raise donations to fund her funeral, and a memorial was set up after her death. Layla D., Khadidja's best friend, had attended the trial and described Khadidja as, quote, loving and friendly. Layla said, quote, she was by far the person with the biggest heart. She took care of me, and I can't explain how anyone could do this to her. It's just so senseless, so horrific, so unnecessary, because this dumbass fucking, I don't even know what words to describe
Yeah,
it.
there are no words for people.
Utter piece of shit.
Yeah.
And who knows? I mean, I still don't know what she was thinking. I mean, she really thought she was going to do some black magic and this was going to make her life all, because that to me, she had to have really been all in on the black magic, because to not go into hiding, to just roll around in public, because often people who believe in black magic believe that it gives them sort of this invincibility and protection, because you're tapping into this source of darkness that is going to protect you from everything.
Yeah. No, I mean,
but not the CCTV at the pizzeria, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Damn, they didn't think of that one.
Damn. Forgot to mention that in the spell.
Yeah. It is, I think the case is so bizarre that I could kind of buy the black magic theory as well. That not that the black magic worked, but that she was convinced.
She was convinced that it was going to work. Because if you're going to fake your own death, why the fuck would you stay in town?
Right. Yeah.
Why would you risk being seen in the same town of your doppelganger that you just murdered?
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
No.
How utterly brainless are you?
Yeah. And the fact that two people were doing this, it makes me think maybe they were both convinced by it. And the fact that, that Shakir's defense brought it up in trial to be like, this is an explanation. I mean, could you imagine having that talk with your lawyers to be like, yeah, it was black magic. And then they're probably thinking, we're going to look like idiots bringing this into court. But it's like, this is what we have because it's somewhat legitimate. Because I can't imagine black magic being introduced. A lot of the time, this supernatural stuff doesn't even make it to the floor of the courtroom because it's so taboo. People scoff at it. It's hard to convince a jury of it, et cetera, et cetera. So the fact that this was even brought into the court gives it a little more gravity, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Because I think it was, if it was just this far-fetched nonsense, little attempt to try to pin it on something, I think it likely would have made it in. But because it did, and they consulted with experts and all these things from universities, I think there's a lot to this angle.
Yeah.
And of course, to like the average person, they're gonna be like, this is just,
ridiculous
and completely silly. Of course, it wouldn't be based around that, but there are some people out there that really, really deeply believe in this shit and believe that black magic, if you give some sort of sacrifice, and usually it's not a human sacrifice. So she took it to the 1,000th degree. By in her eyes, she was sacrificing, I think, herself in a way, being her doppelganger. She was going for the highest level, so to speak, sacrifice she could possibly make, without it just being herself, killing herself. You know what I mean? By finding her doppelganger in some sort of spell. And that's what I'd be curious to see, is where's this derived from?
Could they even translate
witchcraft
it?
Is this?
Right. Yeah.
So very bizarre.
I think the pizzeria, I think you're onto something with that, because it's either sheer stupidity, which I could buy, or the black magic would make sense, that it's like, oh, I'm protected, so I can just go about my day. I think you might be onto something there.
Yeah, I think it's either that, or she just assumes the identity of this person. She's just like, I'll become this person after I do this ritual. Now become this person.
Yeah.
And nobody will know the difference.
Yeah.
And we'll just forget about science for a moment. That science might be used to solve this, but there is a major oversight on her part there. That
major.
You can't just disfigure it physically and like, oh, we can't see the face anymore, so who knows what body this is.
Yeah.
It's insane.
So stupid, man. It's so tragic too. That's
horrible.
Something this like,
so
people
dumb.
like this can do so much damage,
completely ruined a whole life, and her whole family is forever affected by this in the worst way. It's just a horrific way to. Her final moments must have been true horror, and just for what?
For what?
For fucking what?
Just a bunch of idiots.
So, I'm glad Sharaban and Shakir are right where they are.
Yeah,
hopefully for
forever, probably.
At least Sharaban. I mean, Shakir.
The assassination made me more concerned about
that is
him.
concerning.
Like 13 people,
Yeah,
and he thought
just as
was
insane?
he that deluded that he thought he could I can set this up from prison?
Yeah, I don't know. They both need to stay in prison, though.
Yeah,
clearly.
I definitely think Shakir is a little bit deluded, because he was going to accept 80,000 euros from a 23-year-old.
Yeah, that's a good point. With no job.
Yeah, with no job. Where was she going to get the money? Like it's he's dumb, but for a different reason. I don't think he believed in the black magic. I just think he wanted the money.
Yeah, I know.
Danny probably liked her.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, I'll win some points with her. Maybe we'll fall in love. Maybe she'll forget about her.
Right, yeah.
Fuck Rowan, what about me?
Right.
Look at me, I'm sacrificing.
I did this for you.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah. And when that didn't happen, and she's like, nah, fuck you, Shakir. It was all your...
Yeah.
He's like, all right, well, fuck you then too. And then they just started, throwing at each other, throwing shade at each other, trying to, get away with it the best they can. But
yeah. I know for a second though, I saw Daniel when we were going through it, the potential hitman that was all he was charged with was fraud, and he got a year probation. I saw Daniel over there like, what?
Yeah.
I wonder, I have no evidence of this, but I wonder if maybe they cut him a deal if he would testify in this case to really stack on top of the charges for Sharaban.
Yeah.
That was the only thing I could think of, and it genuinely did sound like he wasn't going to go through with it. He just took the money and ran.
I just think fraud's interesting, because it makes it sound like it's a legitimate legal transaction that was going on there, but it wasn't. It
says to kill someone potentially.
Cash at me 5,000 euros and I'll murder someone for you.
Fraud is a weird charge there.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, they do it a little different over there in Germany.
I do.
I think this would have I think Sharaban might be facing death row over here.
Yeah,
depending on what state it was in, but
I could
Shakir
see
for
that.
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
both of them would be in a bad spot. And I don't know all that much about German prisons, but I hope they're at the worst one. I'm sure there's some tough prisons over there. But yeah, this is such a bizarre case, fairly recent one too.
Yeah.
That we just ran across, and I was like, what? I was like, Austin, what the fuck is this? Like, we got to look into this.
Yeah, and then we were both going through it, and they were like, black magic.
Yeah, what?
And like my gut with
Social media beauty
like,
influencer.
yes,
what is going on here?
Strangest combination of words, but yeah, it's just ended up being so horrific and tragic. And often when I see occultism being connected to murder, I'm really, really skeptical. But in this case, just the bizarre circumstances, I think, add to that weight of like, this might be something legitimate here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's, here at Lights Out, we try and get to the bottom of this type of shit. And it's,
there is no bottom with this.
No, there is no bottom. I had to go, into German articles to understand what the hell was going on with the black magic stuff. But
yeah, I feel like there's still a lot of just missing details and information, family dynamics. I mean, I'm sure if we were able to talk to someone from these families, this would all make way more sense, because I think there's deep-rooted issues going back a long, long time that have just spiraled out of control, that kind of set this thing up. And then obviously Sharaban's just went completely off the deep end here and completely lost it. And maybe this is something that they're worried about happening all this time. And maybe they knew she was capable of doing this. I think she's clearly mentally unwell, but I would argue even she's just potentially just an evil, malicious individual. I mean, this is just beyond anything that you can really make an excuse for, I think. So
yeah, and I could imagine that substance abuse was probably
for sure
at play here as well.
For sure, there's definitely some of that going on here. But yeah, definitely drop us a comment or a message and let us know what you think about this one. Do you think she, what was the real motive here? And do you believe the black magic theory? Was this all because she was trying to do a very powerful black magic spell in order to somehow, I don't know, get Rowan back and her marriage back? I mean, who knows? We want to know your thoughts on this one, but that is going to be it for us today. We appreciate you for joining us, and we'll be back next week with another one. Until next time, lights out, everybody.